thank you so much, first of all, to our speakers, Subah and Tejaswini, for taking the time out. It's 7 a.m. for Tejaswini right now, and yet she's here on this call. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us, and also thank you to everybody who's watching us right now. We're just gonna, introduce ourselves and then get started. My name is Ansh. You might have seen me on the first webinar and on our Instagram page. I'm the Chief Growth Officer here at Rome, and I'm so happy to be here and chat about navigating academic life with you guys.
So
I think Ansh summed it up pretty well. I'm Krish, CEO at Rome, and I think the whole reason we're doing these things, I say this every week, but the reason we're doing these things is because we wish we had them, and we're just trying to provide value in any way we can. And all these conversations are very casual, so if you have any questions, just drop it in the chat and we'll get back to you. Feel free to ping at any one of us if one of us has said something, and we'll see it and respond. One request, put it in the Q&A only section so the chat doesn't get cluttered and we can just talk about casual stuff in the chat. But thank you.
All right. I can go. I'm Subah. I'm a Michigan State grad. I'm a journalism and media graduate, and I'm really excited. I think this is going to be very helpful to everybody that's attending.
Just some context on Subah. She didn't do just one degree in her bachelor. She got 2 degrees because she's just like that in journalism and digital media. So I know she won't say it, but I'll say it for her.
that's awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Tejaswini, and I completed my master's from the University at Buffalo like 2 years back. So it's been a while, but I remember everything about my university life. So y'all can ask me anything. And I work as a product marketing manager with Walmart. And so far, I've been loving the role. So any questions regarding that are also welcome. So that's a little bit about me. I blog, I love cooking, I like hiking, and I'm always traveling. So that's a little bit about me.
And she's also a content creator. That's how we actually ended up connecting, which I think is really cool. But thank you so much. Thank you, Subah and Tejaswini. Let's get started with our first question. So let's hit it. So did you face any immediate academic challenges in your first semester? And if so, how did you deal with them?
You want to go first?
You can go first.
Okay, sure. That's a good question. And I'm sure this will be helpful. And I hope it's helpful because I'm actually from India, as you may know. And when I did my undergrad, assignments were a thing, but here what assignments actually are versus what they are in India, just two different, expectations. So when I came here and when there were deadlines and, in India, like nobody respected deadlines and all of that. And here, if you go without submitting your assignments, that means that you just lose points and there's like no going back. Even if you go and plead the professors, they would just be like, that's an expectation. Like, how can you not submit an assignment, right? So that was basic for a lot of Indian students, for a lot of us. And time management was another because you have a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
You have to cook your own food. Like I'm sure like most of us, probably until your college or at least if you were a pampered baby like me, I never knew how to cook until I came here. So just managing that, doing your laundry as well as just academically managing everything together. You will have 6 or more than 6 subjects if you're doing your master's. It depends on like your credits and all of that. So just time management was a basic skill I had to like get better at because I would just be stressed all the time. And as a student, you cannot afford to just be stressed. You have to like work on a game plan and start working on like your goals. So that was another. And the third thing was I was really missing home.
Did she get stuck?
I think so.
Tejaswini, you here with us?
Okay, we can. So you can go ahead.
Yeah, kind of going off that, my main ones were also the same. Firstly was kind of like not knowing expectations clearly at university, what professors kind of expect from you, what like classmates expect from you, what class behavior is. All that stuff took a little while to get used to. And just like when you have different classes in college, you have deadlines throughout the week, you have different schedules, your assignment schedule like changes every 2 weeks. So learning how to keep up with that and being proactive about like getting used to making like timetables and to-do lists.
Sorry about that.
Planning
No worries.
beforehand, can really help you kind of deal with the time management part of it. But yeah, so starting early and really reading the syllabus as well in classes is very helpful. So like taking the time out to really get comfortable with what is expected from you within that one semester and knowing what it's going to look like on a like a day-to-day level can really help you in the long run if you start preparing before the semester starts.
Yeah, definitely agreed. I feel like reading a syllabus is something that is so crucial, and a lot of students choose to skip out on that for whatever reason. But personally, I would just read the syllabus for all my 4 classes I would be taking and make sure I note down when my exams are for each of those classes on my calendar. So I know when an exam is coming up and I don't have to constantly refer back to the syllabus. Is definitely one thing that like I tried to implement when I was getting used to university life. But Subha, I'm very interested to hear your opinion on dealing with writing classes, especially because we came from a CBSE background and you did a major that involved a lot of writing. So how did you get used to that?
Yeah. Getting used to the fact that there's not one right answer, I think, is the biggest starting point when you come here. Just like knowing that your goal when you're writing answers in college is to put forth what you have genuinely thought and researched in the best way possible, as opposed to trying to fit whatever you think like the already correct answer is. I think that's the biggest thing that you need to kind of get comfortable with in writing class. You need to be comfortable with thinking, because I feel like that's something that's kind of stunted in CBSE a little bit. So that's the first thing. I really think reading really helps in writing classes. The more you do the readings that they give you, because we get something called readings in university where they give you like documents or books or papers to read. And I know a lot of my classmates didn't do that stuff in writing classes, and they would just get the assignments done. But if you really want to write well, you have to read whatever the professor gives you for that class.
Definitely. I think also just reading outside of your class also helps.
Yeah.
When you're just consuming different perspectives, it helps you become a better writer as well. And you bring up such a good point. Like readings was something that was new. We didn't have to do any readings to write any essays. So just like going through and sitting and like reading all those heavy texts was definitely new. But I think embracing your writing classes is so important, especially as a kid who did a STEM degree. Because I feel like I learned way more from my writing classes than I did from any of my coding or like my econ classes, simply because I had to like sit in front of a blank document and ask myself like, what do I feel about these issues? And I think that really progressed my level of thinking as well.
Yeah, and I think writing is an understated skill purely because it helps you articulate your thoughts. So to everyone listening to this is going to help you with whatever it is, whether you're starting a business or going to get a job. The way you present yourself is everything. And writing helps you articulate and communicate far more effectively than someone who doesn't write. So when you do have a writing class, yeah, it can suck. Yeah, it takes a lot of time to get used to reading and writing, but you should definitely try and focus on that.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure.
Yeah.
Totally love hearing the undergrad perspective on this, because I did my master's, right? But it was very similar. We also had very, very similar stuff. Like our professors wanted us to go through like material, and it was so important for the next class. Otherwise, we would not really follow through.
For
Also,
sure.
I'm not able to see myself on the screen. Is it a me problem or what's going on?
Yeah, I'm not sure. We're not able to see you either. Could you like
Oh,
perhaps join again?
yeah, sure.
Thank you. Sorry
Sorry
about
about
that, guys.
this.
And in the meantime, I'll repeat the question when she's back. But till then, what were some strategies you used to form relationships with professors and advisors?
Yeah, I was excited to talk about this question because, like, firstly, I think establishing that it is important to do this. I don't know how many people did this in school, or how many, I don't know if we thought it was necessarily important in school, but this is really important in university. According to me, your professors and advisors and even classmates are a big resource. And I think we don't realize how much less access you have to that resource once you graduate if you haven't laid the groundwork in those 4 years, if you haven't like reached out to them and talked to them. And it can be really simple. It can be staying after a class and asking the professor like a question or something, or going to office hours, or just emailing them at the beginning of the semester to be like, hey, I'm in your class, I'm really excited to learn about this and this, and I hope to talk to you on Monday or something like that. Professors take note of that and they remember that. They really put a lot into like every semester. They take time to get to know the students, unless you have like a 300-person class or something. But even in that 300-person class, you can still do any of those things and get to know your professors and then the teaching assistants in the class of that. And it can be really helpful. I've gotten more than one like letters of recommendation from professors that I connected with just by going to office hours. Office hours are like, every professor will hold extra hours like in the evening or something, so that you can just join and talk to them about the class that you're in. And I highly recommend using that sort of that you have.
For sure. Tejaswini, we were just talking about what were some strategies you employed to form relationships with your professors and advisors?
Yes. So the first thing that I did before I went, or like I joined university, was research who my professors were going to be, what they teach, and what like my prerequisites for that particular course would be. And I asked them that question over an email. So that kind of, I think, made them feel like I'm genuinely interested. I was, but there's just this one step, because when I went to meet them in person, they were like, "Oh yeah, I recall this girl." Right? Like she'd emailed me, she was interested. So after that, when I would go meet them, probably chat with them, learn more about them, and ask them about opportunities. A lot of people just after building that network, because professors love that. They also want to get to know students just outside of class. So when you do that, when you go chat with them, get to know like more about the subjects that they're teaching, and if there are any opportunities that are coming up, if they can put you in touch with people who own startups in your local area for internships, because that's how a lot of people in Buffalo, where like I did my master's, ended up getting internships. So just that first step, taking that initiative before you start your course, just email the professor, ask about prerequisites, ask if you can do any certifications related to those subjects. Just have a conversation, like a one-on-one. And it's like, you might think that they don't have the time or whatever. If they don't, they will tell you about it. But if you just miss the chance, you miss it. So
Yeah.
that's one of those tips.
I think initially I was kind of scared to go up to talk to professors, because I looked at them as like these big overlords who knew so much and I didn't know anything. But I think what we have to realize is a lot of them are there, yes, to research, but also to interact with students because they have a love for teaching. So understand that and then go up to them and talk to them, because a lot of the times they're also looking for TAs and RAs, like teaching assistants and research assistants personally as well. So if you show initiative that you go and research some of their research, say there's an economics professor and you see what they've written, and then you go and talk to them about it, they'll love it, because everybody loves talking about their work and themselves. So it's the same thing with professors as well. So taking the initiative is really important when you want to establish those relationships and get jobs with them.
And adding on, just visiting them during office hours, like if you're struggling with an assignment, instead of just asking ChatGPT, you have a human there to help you. And that
Yeah.
human has set the paper, or like, given you that particular assignment. Go there. I know it's intimidating, but like, that's why people set office hours, right? Like, to go and to learn from them. And that's how I ended up like getting my resume reviewed by these professors who were in the field technically. So it can't get better than that. So yeah.
Also, adding on to that, I feel 2 points. First being, if you have a rapport with the professors and your class is curved, which in some cases they are, they might just bump you up rather than down. When I say curved, I mean they have rules like no more than 35% of people can get no more than 35 people can get an A. So you gotta, they curve the whole thing. It's damn messy. But if you know the professor personally, then oftentimes they put you on top of the curve, which favors your grade significantly. And second thing I want to say is a lot of professors are very chill. Like they're probably 28, 30, maybe they're 40, 50, but they're super chill. They're there because they want to be there. They're there because they want to be around you. And I've gone to dinners with my professors, lunches with my professors. Some of them are like that. So don't be shy because you never know who that could be. And second thing is when, like Tejaswini said, when you go to them with your resume, they might just send it out for you. And if it goes from them, the odds of you getting whatever it is you're searching for are far greater than if you do it yourself. So just be friends with your professors. Don't just look at them as people you learn from. Look at them as people you can provide value to in different ways. They like chatting about what it's like to be young again. So make them feel that way.
Yeah.
So I want to share a small experience I had with one of my professors from my first semester of college. I was taking a class on poetry and neoliberalism in the Americas, and I was just like, what does that mean? But throughout the course of the semester, it was a 5-person class, and I ended up forming such a good relationship with my professor. We ended up meeting for coffee in the next semester, and we were chatting about so many things from relationships to life advice. And now he's become a friend and a mentor to mine, and he refuses to let me call him my professor, and he wants me to call him Ezekiel, which is
Sweet.
like his name. And I just never thought I would be friends with a 40-year-old Argentinian man who teaches poetry. So yeah, I think your professors are very diverse. I think you should take advantage of that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. That's a good
Yeah.
way to put it.
Azhar is asking a lot of professors. What are you?
All
Wait,
right.
am I crazy? Or did I just?
No,
Okay, a lot of professors give super long reading lists, and so how do you cover as much ground as possible while still saving time? Oh, it's a struggle, my friend. But I think Subha is the best person to answer this.
that's a great question. When they give you the really long reading list, they usually will, I mean, my professors used to also like mention which ones were most important or which ones were required and which was additional. Not gonna lie, I didn't do the additional ones very often if I didn't get time. But if it isn't mentioned, that's something you can ask the professor and then connect with them over. And honestly, yeah, just either do that or if you're really struggling for time, use AI, copy paste the article into ChatGPT, be like, summarize this for me, and it'll give it to you. I don't recommend doing that. I think using your own brain and doing the reading is really important and much more helpful. But sometimes you have an exam and you need to get stuff done fast. And so use the resources you have. Sometimes the answer is very simple to a lot of these challenges.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next question. How do you think classroom dynamics and teaching styles differ in the US versus Dubai and India?
Yes. So this is a big one and a great question because then I'll have to go a little bit into my life during
Let's
undergrad
do it.
to actually explain. Yeah. So in like I went to school in Tamil Nadu, and professors are like super strict. Not like it's not a generic thing, but at least in my college, it was like you enter class 2 minutes late, you have to get out, and they were like super strict. They would just like judge you based on whether you talk to boys, whether you're dressing well, and there were like so many cultural aspects that used to creep into just and also it used to affect my marks, like internals, and it was
Hmm.
really sad, but that is what happened. And so when I was coming for my master's, I was thinking, oh, should I wear kurtis? Oh, should I not talk to boys? Like, that was how I was thinking about it. It's really sad. 4 years of my college life was like that. And
Right.
like super judgmental people, like super judgmental. Not everybody, but I can say 80%. And like I'm super extroverted and I used to like talk to a lot more people, and like my extracurriculars were always more than like I would not just sit in class, right? And so I would like get judged majorly. When I came to the US with that mindset, I was like, pleasantly shocked. People loved me because they were like, the more you do outside class, the more connections you build, the more like you learn, and you can use that to kind of give examples during like your lectures and all that. And people love it here. They love it if you're creative. They love it if you can bring other experiences to the table. If you can like chat about what you're doing outside. If you're building like a product, and if you can talk about it during a product management class. I just felt super appreciated. That's number one. So just that shift. Okay. And other than that, I felt like here majorly everything was very practical. So more than just theoretical knowledge, they really concentrated. Like if it's an assignment, we had to go out, talk to people, gather information. We had to do research. Then we had to submit like a proposal, and then the professor would review that. It's like I had a product management class. I have to talk about this, like my favorite, and I learned so much from it only because at the end of that class we had to like build like a prototype and a product, and that idea had to be original, had to market our product, mock product, and kind of make people sign up for that. And I think I did not learn product. If I did not learn product management that way, I wouldn't have been able to interview for my role at Walmart. Like every step of the journey I did by myself. And they gave me the confidence, they made me present in front of the class. It was always like a lot of like interaction, and yeah, I loved it. And then it was so much more different than how it used to be at home, where like rote learning was the thing. You study this 2 mark, 5 marks, you come to class, you write your semester, you just mug up, and then you have the keywords, and then you're good to go in India.
Yeah,
But here,
yeah.
that's not the case at all. So I love that. And I know this was a long answer, but also it was a rant, I know. But yeah.
No, appreciate it. I love the stories. I love the background. Yeah. How about you, Subah?
Yeah. I was reading your message. Most of the same stuff. I think you have to be very comfortable with participation was one thing that I really needed to learn. Is A lot of classes are participation based, even like STEM ones can be that way. And the only way you can excel in those kind of classes is kind of getting rid of your own inhibitions from like raising your hand or raising your hand on Zoom or whatever. And the only way that you can get better is by doing it. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll feel participating. It can be very intimidating. I know, like, as international students, there's 100 things we don't know if our experience necessarily applies sometimes, or the accent difference can be intimidating to kind of get over and speak up. But the more you do it, the better you will get at presenting your ideas, at getting them across, at saying them clearly, at all of that. So I think come into university with the mindset that this is something I have to work on and inculcate, and it will happen the more you do it. And my second one was get used to working with people in a way that I don't think we've done in school. There's a lot of group work that goes into a lot of university projects. Study groups and everything is a different thing you can also choose to get involved with. But even just for like projects and assignments, a lot of them will be group based because professors want to see how you work with other people. And so even in those settings, getting used to speaking your mind and putting forward your opinion and putting forward your ideas is really important. So those two things were some things I had to really like learn to do once I came here.
Yeah, for sure. I also want to like explain how classes work in the US. Am I? Okay, yeah. There's two kinds of classes, primarily lecture style and seminar style. Lecture style will be a professor while just giving a lecture in front of the room and students sitting back in the audience, just like taking notes and potentially asking a question here and there. Those can range from anywhere like 50 students to 800 students if you're taking something like Gen Chem at NYU. But then you also have seminar style classes, which can be anywhere from like 3 to 5 students to like 20 students, which is more of your how we experienced classes, I feel like, back in the CBSE curriculum, at least for me, where it's just the teacher teaching and you ask questions if you have any, and then it's more of a discussion style thing. So that's more akin to high school studies, but like I feel like it's not directly comparable. But those are the two main types of classroom settings, I would say.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. And there's also
And
Krish, you're
a
muted.
third. Oh, shit. Am I?
No, mind, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, yeah. There's also a third that sometimes you have a lot of experiential classes, and that's nothing like either of those two. And if you're studying, it could be anything really. If you have a professor who's interesting, they might just take you out and say, okay, we're actually going to do this. Like Tejaswini said, she had to present to the class and ask them and go and figure stuff out. There's a lot of hands-on learning, and that's something that isn't there so much in CBSE. Like it's more rote. In CBSE, this is more, okay, go figure it out. We don't care how you do it. Just bring the product back and show us later how you did it. So you're going to have to do a lot of it yourself, and you will work a lot in groups as well. I think group projects are something that I didn't have to this degree, at least in high school. But coming here, it's crazy. It's good fun because you meet a lot of people and you learn how to work with people, which is, I think, the most important skill that comes out of that. You'll come across people that don't do anything, and then you'll come across people who want to do everything. So you need to know how to manage both and figure out how to, if you're a leader, then figure out how to lead. If you like being, guided, then yeah, it's all about understanding and figuring out yourself more than anything else. So just take it from that approach.
Also adding on, that's such a good point you brought out there about like the group session. So, like during interviews also, like you can give examples, like, because most of the rounds involve like behavioral questions. So they might ask you, how did you resolve a conflict? And most students think, if I don't have work experience, how can I talk about it? But these are experiences that you can talk about. Like you did a group project, somebody was not doing the work, you took the lead. That proves your leadership. And you just miss the opportunity when you're actively, working on that project and you've done it. But when you've done it, you can talk to it like in the star format during the interview, because you're like, I did it and I know what exactly I did, right? So yeah, it's just adding on to whatever you're doing, and you can use that as an example in your interviews.
Tejaswini, do you want to quickly explain to our audience what STAR means? Because I know we're familiar with it, but a lot. No worries.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm behaving like one of those people who's worked in a company 2 years and the interns hate because I'm using acronyms. But yeah, STAR format is situation, task, action, and result. It's a format that students in the US or any job seeker usually uses during an interview. So while somebody asks you a behavioral question, like for example, the one that I mentioned, where they ask you, hey, can you talk about a time you resolved a conflict? And if I have an answer in mind, how I'm going to structure that is, first I'm going to talk about the situation. Say I'm A and there's B, and B did not do any work, and I took the lead and I covered up for B. How did I approach that situation? So what was B going through? Why did that not happen? All of that, just setting that story up, situation. And then task, you talk about the task. So what was the task? Person B did not, do anything. So what did I do? I set up a meeting with him. I tried to understand what was going wrong with him. Once I understood, the third one is A, action. What action did I take? Did I do his work, or did I delegate his work to the other team members? That's the action. And R is the result. So here is where you have to be really careful. You can't just be like, oh, I completed that task. That anybody would do. You have to provide metrics. By doing so, how did I achieve? Like, I completed this in less than 30 minutes, or some metric like that. Or like, it was supposed to be completed in 5 days. I completed it in 2 days because I delegated that task so well that we ended up finishing whatever in such limited time, right? So I know it took a while to explain this, but it's so important. This is such a basic example, but even like when you, write your resume, just make sure that the STAR format is in there, where like you explain everything beautifully, but in simple words. And during interviews, you can be more, elaborate about it, like how I spoke, but it has to be a smooth flow. You should know this format in your head, but you can't be like, oh, this is the situation, this is the task, this is the action or result. It just has to be like in a flow of storytelling. You get better at it with practice, but yeah.
Right. I think that definitely cleared it up for our audience.
Yeah, and moving on to the next question. What were some campus resources you took advantage of to support your academic career?
I think I've been talking a lot. I'm going to let her answer this.
Lots of them. whatever your university has, really try to take advantage of all of it. Everything is accessible, everything's online, you can find everything if you just try to do it, and make that extra effort to do it. I used my career center a lot for a lot of resume and cover letter reviews, for a lot of help with job searching and interviews and stuff. But even apart from that, like, I've heard mixed experiences with like academic advisors, but mine have always been really good. And I think that they have been very helpful in figuring out your path to your degree, because there are many different classes you can take. There are many different sort of combinations of classes you can choose to complete whatever your minimum requirements are to get your degree. And advisors can be very helpful in navigating that and helping you find stuff that you would be interested in and good at. That's the second one. Career fairs and networking events, really make sure to take advantage of those. That's something that you don't really get outside of university. It's a very unique resource that only being a university on campus student can provide. So make use of that. I used Handshake for campus for like jobs and stuff, to find jobs on campus. So Handshake is an online platform you can use. The biggest tip I had was really simple, was read your email. Your university sends out a lot of stuff to your email. They give it to you directly in your inbox. You just have to like make the effort of opening them and actually reading them when you get them. Because I have found like award applications, scholarship applications, job opportunities, research opportunities, all in my email, just my email. So that's a big one that a lot of people kind of skim over because it's a really long email. Who wants to read it? But highly recommend doing that. I can think of more until somebody.
No, I think that's really good. I want to add on to that and say if you are a CBSE student and you have the chance to place out of some of your classes and like get credits for it, try to do that. I never even tried to do that and I kind of regretted it because what I'm trying to say is that let's say you took a calculus 1 or equivalent in your high school, you do very well in college, right? You don't really need to take that class. It'll be stuff that you're repeating. So talk to your advisor, say that yes, I'm a CBSE student, but can I take some sort of test? Can you please help me transfer out of this? Because it will do a few things for you. You will not have to take that class, so you can take another class instead and learn something new, which is important. And that something new could turn into another minor or even a major. And if you don't want to do that and you're like, you just want the credits, then you can even do that and try to graduate early because every single credit in university has a cost. So don't just like be loose with it, is what I'm trying to say. So try to place out of as many classes as you can.
Agree. When you said calculus, I went into a spiral and I had PTSD for like 2 minutes. I was like, oh my God, that subject is college. But anyway, adding on, beautiful points. Just like, I totally agree. CRC, like the Career Resource Center, as she spoke about, was literally like my go-to. I used to go there so often because they not only reviewed resumes, but they also helped me prepare for interviews. And other thing that I would like to say is that this is not technically provided by the university, but if you're looking to crack like a data analyst or a product management role, if that's your goal at that point in time, try to build a circle. Like you would know, right? Other just people who are as motivated as you. Don't pick the ones that are not and just want to party, but like build your circle and internally itself just like set up these calls and interview each other. I know as friends, you would probably laugh if somebody asked you a serious question, but as with time it gets better and you can really help each other because you're preparing for the same kind of role. And definitely ask like your seniors also because nobody better because they already done with college and they are actively interviewing so they can help you. I'm just talking about master's level. I don't know how it works undergrad level, but although this is technically not like a university kind of a thing, I think you should internally build a circle. And it's like also like a support group, right? Say you didn't do your interview well, you can discuss and kind of find out, you can tell or like you can share the answers that you gave and they'll be able to exactly pinpoint what went wrong with that answer so that the next time you won't repeat it. So yeah, that's one thing. And the second thing is, so if you're working on campus, right? If it's not like a campus dining job, even if it's like some kind of product or project management or some tiny thing that you're doing, you're volunteering or whatever, try to get a LinkedIn recommendation from whoever you worked with. It's so helpful. Many students forget this, but that's how you build credibility in the country, right? Why would anybody trust you? So that's super. That's been super helpful for me. I work for like I worked as a digital marketing student assistant in my college, and before I left that job or like before I graduated from college, I made sure that I got like a recommendation from my manager at that point, who was also like the dean. So that really helped.
Also, going off of that, in the same realm, especially if you are in a field like marketing media where you need a portfolio, download your projects before you exit university, even in internships and stuff. Make sure you are keeping trails and evidence of all the work you did, especially jobs and internships, because you won't have access to that once you leave it. So make sure that's something that you are thinking about like ahead of time and saving and doing all of that work so that you can make a really nice portfolio at the end of it.
That's a very good point.
And also, your university gives you a lot of access to like newspapers, to food delivery, to Hulu, to all that
Mm.
stuff. Use that. You can save a lot of money. There's student discounts on anything and everything. Your student like card will get you discounts in so many places if you just show it. So make sure you do your research on that and save money wherever you can. That's important.
Yeah, adding on to
There's
that,
also this app, right? Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah, you
what's
go
the
on.
app? No, I was on the same line. What's the app?
Yeah, I forgot the name of the app because it's been 2 years. But there's this app where you literally get discounts on everything and most of the time. I forgot the name. It's like this green eye. It's got this green thing. I will write it out before you go on.
Is it Unidays?
Days.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So,
think it's
yeah,
days.
always ask for a student discount. I mean, this is a bit sidetracked, but no matter where you go, even that restaurant down the road probably has a student discount. Save money where you can because life in the US is expensive. We touched upon this last time, but it comes up. And when you're studying and you're prepping for exams and you don't have time to cook, you're going to end up getting food from out. So just be cognizant of where you're getting it from and ask them for a student discount. Like, don't let that go. Free money.
Yeah. Uh, let's move on to our next question. So yes, academics are important, but what you do outside of the classroom is, some would say, even more important. So how important do you think it is to get involved in extracurricular activities from your first semester onwards? And how do you think they contributed to your academic success? Either of you
Okay.
can take this.
So my yeah, the voice
Just
was
when your internet all
breaking, so
good?
I didn't really. Yeah, my internet is not okay as usual. I don't know. I'm trying to get it
No
connected
worries. I'll
back.
repeat the
Am I?
question.
Are you guys able to hear me? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can hear you. I'll repeat the question. The question is, how important is it to get involved in extracurricular activities and how do they contribute to your academic success? Because we all know what you do outside of the classroom is arguably even more important than what you do inside.
Yes. So this is my take on this. Okay. So because I did my master's and the course in itself wanted me to, do stuff outside of work. Like there was this professor who told us that, the best project would get like this. So he was a pilot. So he told us that he will fly us over Niagara Falls if we went above and beyond. So stuff like this, really motivating, cool stuff. So because of which, like we went above and beyond. But at the end of the day, not just that subject, and not just because that was the motivation, but in general, there were other parts of college which I really fondly remember only because I loved participating in these workshops, conferences that I attended. As a student, you might think that you might not have the time, but the more you put yourself out there was this entrepreneurship summit that was happening as part of my college. And I went there, and that's where I met some of my closest friends because it was the spirit in me was very, very similar to what they had, right? So each of us had like a startup idea. that we had to talk about in front of a crowd. And I really liked few people's startup ideas. And the competition was, if at all like the investors liked your idea, the University at Buffalo will kind of fund you and help you build on your idea. So there I met some amazing brains, and we went for drinks later. And to date, like we go on trips, we all got jobs, but we all also know that each of us is working on our idea on the side, right? Or at least that spark hasn't died, and you can connect better. So it's not just with respect to like connecting with people, but at the end of the day, these experiences you can talk about on LinkedIn to build your brand. So that's another thing. So when an employer is going through your LinkedIn, if they know that, okay, this person is not just theoretically knowledgeable, but practically she has participated in these workshops. She's actually putting herself out there to go outside and learn more apart from just like class learning. That itself like builds credibility that you can handle more stress if at all that's what the job involves. So stuff like that, just small things like that, make sure that whatever you're doing, you're talking about it on LinkedIn, because otherwise there's no point. I know in this world, it's really sad that you have to market yourself like that, but there is heavy competition. And if you're not going to like, you know, market yourself, who else will? So yeah, I think I went on a tangent there. But
No worries. How about you, Subah?
Very true. Yeah, I think extracurriculars are really important. I think we don't talk about them enough in school life or in CBSE, ICSE life. I think they're really, really important. But before that, just a disclaimer: university life can be there can be a lot of different moving parts at the same time, and you can be surrounded by a lot of people that are doing a lot of stuff, and it can be easy to feel like you're falling behind or you're not doing enough. So I would say that you are there to get your degree. That is really important. Focus on that. But if you have the time and the space and the capacity to do stuff outside of just that, some people have really challenging degrees in itself. That's very hard. But if you have the capacity, try to get involved as much as you can. On the undergrad level, that can look like student organizations. There are so many. There'll be Indian or like South Asian ones. There'll be stuff for your specific like career and interest, stuff for side things if you're interested in photography or you're interested in coding, but that's not your thing. I'm sure there's a student org for that. So do your research, find them, talk to them, join them, go to their meetings, apply to be on the e-board, try to get those positions. All of that stuff can really help. Like start your resume off. If you don't have work experience yet, it can be really helpful. It does not matter if you don't have work experience. If you have done a lot of that stuff, you can use it on your resume. You can use it in your interviews and whatever. They really help round off your education. I think they help you learn a lot that can't be found in the classroom. What else did I have written down? Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's kind of it. Just do it. It's really helpful.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, because we have to realize that we don't come in with a lot of professional experience, at least as an undergrad student. So clubs and on-campus jobs became my first professional experience. That was what I was on my resume for the longest time. For at least like 2.5 years, clubs were my main professional experience, because I didn't get an internship. I couldn't manage to get an internship. So I was like part of three consulting clubs at NYU. So they allowed me to talk to clients, and I could use those experiences and talk about it in my interviews for future internships and for future jobs. So make use of those clubs. And the way you find these clubs is, at least at NYU, we have something known as Club Fest, where all the clubs basically come together in this large auditorium and they try to sell themselves to you so you can join. So make sure you go to Club Fest. Also, website. Universities usually have websites with a repository of all clubs. So you can scroll through all of them and see what you want to join. And again, read your emails so you can figure out if there are any on-campus jobs that might have slipped through your cracks. They're probably like in your emails, and try to apply to those. And also, my last point is that I feel that a lot of students, especially Indian students who did a CBSE curriculum, they're very focused on their GPA. I know I was. I try to keep my GPA as high as possible, and that's a good thing, obviously, because it signals to your employer that you're willing to work hard and do well in your academics. However, don't let that come in your way of like building experiences outside of the classroom. You can't sit in the library all day. It's just not going to work out when it comes time to apply to jobs. You need experience. Your GPA is only going to take you so far.
Yeah.
I agree.
Very true. And I'd say GPA is cool and all, but a lot of you, if you end up going in a product or startup, they look a lot more at what you've actually done than the classes you've taken. Because everyone knows, like for example, if I took a give me an example. If I took a CS class and I'm going into journalism, now it's a very different field. Not saying that certain things might not carry over, but people are much more interested in what you wrote than what you can code. So just building up your portfolio is something really important. And second thing is, I think we've spoken a lot about actual work and stuff. So why don't we sidetrack a bit? And what are some of the most fun projects you've ever been on during your college life? Let's move there.
Oh, there's a
Um,
lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. But my favorite was yeah. You wanna go, Shubha? I think you started off.
No, you can go ahead. You can continue. Can you hear me?
I did
Yeah, we
not
can
hear
hear you.
you.
She said you can go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, cool. So yeah, there's this one product that I worked on as part of the class, which is so they said take up any problem that you think is a problem, come up with a solution, build a product prototype, sell it to us, and market it, and let people know about it. And just depending on how well you do, of course, you had to pitch it also, and it had to be like a product that was solving an actual problem. And if they felt like you did a good job, you get to you get the first grade or whatever. And at that point, just like you guys, I really was very upset with the whole job search process, okay? Because I just feel like if you don't pass ATS, you don't pass through anything. You don't get an interview at all. And as international students, I just found that so frustrating. I was like, how is that okay? Like, I do so much more, and a robot gets to decide my future. Like, that's not cool. So, just based on that idea, I proposed a system that would at that point I know there were not too many other competitors, but I wanted to come up with a system where depending on what role you wanted to crack, you would connect with people from different organizations. They would do your resume review. um, there was an app just like vmockup but inbuilt. Do you all know vmockup? It's like
Yeah.
this app. Yeah. So it scans your resume and it kind of checks if it will pass through ATS. So that's another thing that it would do. And experiential learning. So you can connect with them and say a day in the life of a product manager at Microsoft. How is it? Kind of a thing where it's AI that's helping you go through that day. So you actually understand what a product manager at Microsoft does. Before you step into the role, you kind of really know what you will be doing, kind of a thing. So it was like a job search plus resume review plus helping you crack your first job, kind of a thing. And I named it Abracadabra, and that was the project I pitched. And I was a little nervous because it was the first ever time I was like building my product. We had to create a mock up, we had to build an app, we had to market it. But at the end of the day, through that process, I just gained the confidence that I could do anything because I had to talk to random strangers, I had to do research, I had to like kind of understand if people would buy this app, if it had value. So building the value proposition. And I think at the end of the day, if I'm so confident in my role today, product marketing manager at Walmart, that only was the base because I knew that that was appreciated in the class. There was like a roar of applause, and I was like, okay, I did it. So that's one of my favorite projects that I worked
That is so cool. That's
That's
actually so
awesome.
cool to hear.
Oh my God. I love
on.
that. Um, Mine, I was a film minor or concentration. So for my favorite would be like my film capstone. It was a great project. It was a year-long like documentary from start to finish production. and I was the director of one of the films we were making. And it was a great project. It was so much fun. I made a lot of really good connections. And film is not, this is a good example actually, because film is not what I want to go into in career-wise, but those classes and that capstone, I think has been the experience that has been the most valuable in my job search. Despite that, because the experience was so vast and so varied, and it taught me so much that it really was very useful in interviews. And film is something that like people like to listen to you talk about. They're like, oh, film's interesting. So interviewers would genuinely just be curious about it and want to know more about it. So I think that's it. So if there's something that you're really interested in doing, take that class, because you don't know what you might get out of it apart from just the fun of learning something that you really want to learn. So that was a great project. I loved it. It had a great, we interviewed like 35 plus people. We had like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage to edit and put together like a 30-minute film. And we ended up doing like a premiere in an actual nice theater and hosting it and calling people from the community and everything. It was really, really great. So do that class, whatever it is that you're interested in. Please do it.
So that seems like
good for that.
That seems like such a fulfilling experience to show your work to all those people. That's awesome. I had also had a similar experience in my first semester. I talked about this class right now, poetry with Professor Ezekiel. He made us make a podcast for our final project, and it was just the five of us. And we decided to make a podcast. Like each of us came up with a poem that was written by somebody else on two themes: love and death. And we talked about, and every single poem was from a different century. So from the 1600s to the 2000s. So I think I chose like 1700s. So I picked up a poem on love and death, and I recited it. And I talked about what it meant to me and what the poet was trying to convey. And we made a whole podcast about it. And we made 2 episodes. They're still on Spotify. I don't remember what it was called. But I remember when our professor listened to it in our final class, he was literally in tears. He was in tears because of how proud he was of us and how much he actually liked what we had to say. And I think that class really reignited my love for writing and my love for poetry, which was destroyed because of CBSE, because they asked us to have an objective answer to everything. So like piggybacking off of what Subha said, that the classes that you don't think you get a lot out of in university are the classes that you might hold with you throughout your life. So try to make the most out of every single class that you get to attend.
And last point, adding on to that, my favorite class by far was this thing called Science of Happiness.
Mm-hmm.
It's a psych class. I know nothing about psych. I don't care about psych. I mean, I enjoy learning about it, but I was not one of those people. And I sat in this class, and it's a 300-person class, but every single class ended with everyone standing up and applauding the professors. And the energy in that room is so incredible. And you never know what class this might be. So if something seems fun, like oh, Science of Happiness sounds interesting, let me take it. Absolutely best decision. I think that's one of my top 3 classes I've taken during college. So find those classes that sound interesting. And don't hold back from taking it. Your major will still get completed. You're not going to complete your thing if you take one class you really want to take or a couple of them. So don't let that hold you back. Do what you want to do. This is your college experience is now coming back. So live it your way.
For sure. I think we can wrap it up there. That's a